Hello, everyone. Welcome to another scene of Videssa, the Dark Crusade Season 2. And today is, or tonight, I should say, is again Elysium time in Timuran. It is a very busy Elysium where a lot happens. Hmm, Politics, of course. Um, and during all this conversation with all these people, all kinds of old and new faces, yeah, I mean, just takes a moment to step outside onto one of the balconies. Like, when she looks to the side, there's probably more of them that are probably occupied, but each of them is far enough away so that yeah, you can definitely hold a private conversation here, but also can just escape from the busy social gathering inside. Uh, the rumors probably like still coming out through like the open doors, but quite enough. And this particular balcony just offers a view on the garden around the palace, specifically an area where there's like a gazebo and a lake right next to it. With it being nighttime, the lake kind of looks extra dark. And yeah, Irene is kind of leaning on the stonework of the balcony and just stares out and just even though she doesn't need to, takes a deep breath. Um, just getting that you know night scent. Um, just breathing it in, and yeah, it's there that we start the scene.
Um, Irene might be startled if she doesn't sense the presence of Memnon first, but she would hear his familiar voice call out to her in a not booming, but neither is he yelling, but he just very plainly announces aloud, Lady Irene, I have a word with you.
She yeah, she straightens herself and turns around. Samemnon, of course. It's quite lovely here outside. If you would like to join me.
You see him approach the balcony slowly. He kind of you might mistake the look of on his face with disdain as he looks out over the edge. Hmm, yes, nice garden.
Gardens are not your style?
No, just unfamiliar with such heights. Where I'm from, buildings are really this tall.
I see. It is actually when it's not as busy as it is these nights. And when I'm staying here in the palace, I often go. I often used to take a walk, like past the lake, but a few months ago I actually fell into it. It was a strangely scary experience. Ever since then, I've not really strolled along the lake.
Why were you scared? Did you forget that you no longer breathe?
I don't know. No, it's just I heard it myself, and mm, I don't know. She looks like just for a moment confused, and then shrugs it off. It's probably just nothing. I don't know. Perhaps I was just easily spooked at that time.
You should never let something that fears you remain. Conquering fears, as even if as small as they may seem, as passing by a lake, it has a way of going away at one's own self confidence.
I know. I normally don't let myself be scared off this easily. I guess. I guess I just never gotten around to do it again. It was right before, like maybe a week before the plague hit Odessa.
If you would feel better with me escorting you uh, past the lake, I would come with you.
If you would like to, I would love to take you up on that offer.
Very well. By the way, I did want to inform you of a new development, something I wish I had brought up to you sooner, although I saw you were very engaged with the other Canaanites.
I apologize.
No
It's
need
very
to
too.
no need to apologize. You
Mm.
clearly are in your craft. You have a gift for politics.
I wouldn't consider myself to be gifted in politics.
Well, you fared better than I would have.
Last night was interesting.
I did go to Riverside, as you suggested, and I did happen to find a family who were in need of a relocation, someone who wouldn't prey on their desperateness.
I see.
However, I found an opportunity that perhaps your assistance could be mutually beneficial for the both of us.
Oh,
Yes, this family. They were indebted to a money lender. I met the money
hmm.
lender. We had a talk. He saw it was good business sense that he renegotiate the debt his family had incurred.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he is, as he put it, working under other money lenders. Seems perhaps there are a group of men in this city with money to lend, working in concert.
I see.
I'm I would believe that someone with your talents, being uh, far more pleasing to the eye than myself, and with all your social graces, perhaps you could find a way to lean these men towards your interests, assure some credit and credibility for yourself as well.
Hmm. And how would you see that, Samemnon?
Perhaps combined with certain talents, both natural and of the blood, there was a way for us to influence these men along a business proposition. You care about the small folk, do you not?
Of course I do. As any nobleman should, or noblewoman for that matter.
It could be a private enterprise of your own, or perhaps an endeavor with enlisted peers. If these men can move their money into a place, say the reconstruction of some of the homes that have been lost. Perhaps we could help them find a way to turn that into a profit.
Hmm. Yes, that might be a good idea indeed. We just need to find something that would make it worth their while.
Yes. And I was hoping with your sense of politics and business together, we could move this endeavor along. I'm hopeful that some of the poor are working class, or at least skilled in some sort. I'm sure for aiding in the building of their own homes and shelter, they would look favorably on the cost of labor.
Yes, I think this is fair. Hmm. Perhaps we could introduce ourselves to these gentlemen.
That's exactly what I was thinking. There is a woman that came with the family. She
Mhm.
is, for all intents and purposes, the lady of the house. So perhaps this money lender that had taken this family in debt, his name was Alphonse. I found him at a tavern called, or, or I'm out of character, I might be pronouncing this wrong, or Seek. Oh God, Orsini. Yes, Orsini.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't know why. Okay, I don't know why I was about to fit a U in there somewhere, but anyway. Um, I don't know. Anyway, Memnon says, this
Or s-
Alphonse, he is a timid, weak, greedy man, but so transparent, easily plied. I did agree that it was only fair his family's debt be paid in the principal, renegotiating the interest rate. I've taken this man under my wing, and he's traded. He will help me bring much money, business, do. However,
Mhm.
once Alphonse, there was a way that we could convince him and some of his cohorts to have a meeting, some wine, some food. We could set the setting in order to talk business, put them at ease, make them pliable.
That sounds promising.
I would hope so. I think it would be a good inroad into Riverside. Perhaps, if not the reconstruction itself, perhaps they could help you fund city watchmen levied from Riverside's own denizens. Put in place a captain that you could recommend.
Yes, that could. I think that could work out fine. I do have someone that I think I could trust as captain of Riverside, but he would need more manpower and more funding.
Right. Perhaps when Elysium is over, I could convince the lady of the house to set a dinner up.
Sounds excellent.
Memnon turns to look away from the guard and back at the hall. He says, "That mosaic, that's you in its rendering, correct?"
Yes, it was a. I think, in a way, it is a joke of Prince Ulrich. When he just got here, he he showed me the main hall and asked if it was to my liking. I suggested that he might put up some art in that way, showing how he meant to reign over Timoran. I suggested if he wanted to be seen as a general in war, someone who is a defender of the city, that he might get a painting of himself dressed in armor, perhaps on a horse, as it would show a certain style of his rule. Or if he preferred to come off as a wise ruler, he might depict himself holding a book in a more nature type of peaceful landscape. He chose to make a mosaic with myself and his other childer in it.
Clearly, he seeks to reflect a sense of dynasty, or at least that's my interpretation.
Perhaps so. So I ordered curtains so that I would not need to look upon myself each and every night.
Is it the image or the act that disturbs you?
It is it is a great compliment, and I can see that. And I do appreciate it. It is very beautiful. However, it is so prominent that I sometimes fear it takes away from, well, the people in the hall.
Distracting. I can understand that. But if it was meant as a joke, I would assume this is one expensive joke.
Yes, I can presume so as well. Prince Ulrich um, is a very peculiar yet interesting personality. I have a great love for him. I respect him, and he makes a very fine prince. But sometimes with acts like these, I can see how he still holds on to his humanity in a way.
Hmm. Fair enough. My sire and I did not quite have the time to bond, I believe is the phrase.
I'm sorry to hear that.
He was a Scoundrel of a man, to be honest. But I did admire his sense of dauntlessness, adventure. He was like a sword cutting through a Gordian knot. I respected his brevity.
I I owe Prince Ulrich so much. He can make any joke at my expense he wants. I would not hold it against him. He is giving me more than anyone ever could or should.
And now that you have this legacy before you, what will you do with it?
I can only hope to make him proud. I I don't have much plans of my own other than to help the city of Edessa as much as I can. I hope to travel at some point, but for now I'm good where I am. But I would like to see the world, to grow more experienced and spread my wings fully.
Yes, the world is a vast place. Perhaps sometime I can show you the lands that I hail from.
I would very much enjoy that. I long to see new sights, and although me and my sire, mm, me and Lady Celine, I should say, traveled to this city from my hometown, that was the first big journey that I made.
And do you miss your hometown?
No, no, not at all. I was never meant to stay there, and the road that my mortal father chose for me, I knew was not going to be my road. I knew I was meant for other things, bigger things. And when the Lady Celine came to visit my family's house, I knew that I was destined to go with her.
You have embraced your destiny. That is rare for some, as they often shrink from it.
Well, my mortal father, P, you see, this has been not even a year ago. I I was the fifth daughter. I did have a baby brother, but five daughters, even for a man of noble birth, is a burden. So I was to be, well, I wouldn't say sold off, but I was meant, according to him, to serve God in at the Oracle of Delphi.
Oracle. Interesting.
My father, although a Christian, was still listens to the old legends of my country. I hail from Greece,
Yes, I remember that you mentioned that.
mm,
Which part of Greece?
near Athens.
I've yet to visit that side of the Aegean. Perhaps one day.
It was quite lovely a place to grow up at. But like I said, it was not, and it had never felt like my home after my mother died, giving birth to my baby brother. I had gotten quite a different education from my sisters, and I had not much friends that saw the world quite the way I did. So I was only too happy to follow the Lady Celine out of that place. She was a La Sombra. She brought me here.
It is quite a journey.
Yes, and for a young Cainite, it's all the more, well, exciting, yet daunting in a way as well. And it was in this city that I made my first steps. I set foot in Elysium. I got to meet others from our clan, Lady Madeline, Prince Ulrich.
Excuse me.
Mm.
Um, and how do you perceive the others of our clan here in Odessa?
Hmm. I found my, let me see, my great grandsire, Seneschal, is very imposing, very strict. I wouldn't call him unkind, but just he cares much for respect for his position and his status. I don't necessarily consider that a bad thing, but it does make him harder to approach. His daughter, the sire of Prince Ulrich, is Lady Katerina. She, like me, deals with the nobility of the city. To me, she's very kind, but I have the feeling that can turn very easily if things do not go her way. Not necessarily to me, but in general, of course.
Mm,
Mm,
I think I understand.
well, I've told you about Prince Ulrich. Then there is Madeline, of course. She is, hmm, she comes off as kind and caring, but I feel there's more behind it. Certain hunger. She seems very eager. Certain things. Mm, well, then there is, of course, Omar Shadid, who is, I believe, the child of, well, my sister. He is a very interesting man, strangely cheerful for one of our own. Yet again, I feel that his open and cheerful disposition hides a calculating spirit.
That would seem to be a trait that runs through most of us. Always
Yes,
aware, always on point.
mhm, most of us indeed. There is Zoya, who is the child of Lord Orsini, who was an ancilla in Edessa but left even before the plague began. So I think at the end of last summer, perhaps in the midst of fall.
Hmm. You
I
said
don't know
or
Zoya very well.
you said Orsini. Was
Yes,
he and he was still alive when he left?
I am not sure. He disappeared, and since I was still a fledgling at that point, I was not privy to all the information.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, it is good to see that our shared blood has run strong through the city.
Hmm. I think our clan holds many influences and many. Hmm, I think most of us have a way of excelling in whatever we choose to do.
And given last night's Elysium, how do you feel about what our shared interests are? Do you think we face a stiff resistance?
We face what?
A stiff resistance, sorry.
Stiff resistance. I could not tell. I know too little about the bigger politics that go on between the elders of the city and outside of the city to answer that question truthfully. I know there's been a shift in alliances since the prince, well, died, got destroyed. So a lot of things are insecure right now. And in all honesty, I don't even know if the former seneschal even wishes to try and go for princedom. He has never he's never been open to me, at least, about it. Perhaps to the other members of our clan, but I could not tell.
And if you had the ability, who would you see turn to us as allies that are currently not our allies?
Who currently are not our allies. Well, of course, the Ventru. They most definitely are not our allies. I believe the Tremere could not be counted as allies. Um, Other than that, I am not sure. We used to be allies with the Cappadocians, but what I've heard is that they are, well, not convinced anymore that we might be the best solution.
It would perhaps serve our cause well. There was a common enemy or a common threat that we, the Lasombra, could dispatch and hold up as a affirming act of our competency.
Perhaps, but other than the hunters, I do not know a clear threat right now. Everything is sort of in the air.
And of these hunters, what of them? Is there any unified plan of action?
It was brought up in Elysium last night. The Ventru Gerard claims that his mortal allies, an army of mercenaries, could very well take care of the hunters. In all honesty, I am slightly doubting this.
Why?
I have been I've been at the hunters. I have even stayed amongst them for a day. I've
And
spoken with their leader. He is convinced that we are the root of all evil and that we need to be destroyed. However, he's a very convincing, very charismatic man. And I fear that perhaps the army that Lord Gerard decides to send their way might actually be persuaded to take his side. And then we would only increase the population of hunters. Next to that, they still have members of different clans captive. When I left, I was only allowed to take one with me.
This is a daunting challenge.
Indeed.
So, these mercenary folk, they are not bound by blood to Lord Gerard.
I could not tell, honestly. He is a Ventru, and although we've run into each other on several occasions, the Ventru and the Lasombra in the city do not match very well, so the meetings were sort of awkward. And of course, he would not give up such knowledge to a Lasombra, even if she would still be a fledgling.
Does his plan of attack involve an open battlefield, I presume?
As far as I believe so, but I have not spoken to him about this. I am not a tactician, nor a general of troops.
Perhaps I can offer you some aid in that particular field. These
I was.
hunters. I'm sorry, go on.
No, please, go ahead.
Um, you say these hunters, they have a force of their own. How many number would you say are amongst them?
I honestly could not tell. Perhaps 100, perhaps more. 200, 300. The town was pretty filled with people. I'm not quite sure how big such a town would be. But there is certainly a lot of them, and some of them drink our blood. to gain more power.
What if instead of a direct means of attack, we catch them by surprise? We cannot take our enemy on directly. Perhaps we can go underneath them.
Underneath them. What are
Yes.
you suggesting?
We dig a tunnel into their town and undermine the foundations of their key buildings. Perhaps there's a barracks, sorry. Um, Perhaps there's a church. The greatest point of congregation would help, or perhaps whatever tower that damn bell resides in.
It might work, especially if the hunters are being distracted, or have been distracted, or will be. But I think this is best to be discussed with Lord Gerard. If you want to, I can try and set up a meeting with the three of us.
If you think it wise, I would just come to counsel you, Lady Irene.
I, as said, am not a strategic leader. So perhaps it would indeed be handy to have someone present who knows what he's saying and what he's doing. I plan to go to Gerard simply to give him information on what I saw when I was at the town there. Perhaps your suggestions might interest him.
For all our sakes, I do hope so. I would think it best to minimize the risk upon our personal selves as well as the casualties that may be unfortunately necessary.
Hmm. I, although it pains me to say it, but I agree that this is a group that needs to be taken care of with well, mm, I forgot how to English. Although we need to be careful.
Mm. Well, I will be around, and if this meeting should come, I will be there for you if you call upon me.
Thank you. I will make sure to do so.
When we do return to Dessa, may I ask for your assistance again in just one small minor matter?
Of course, anything.
The lady of the house that I told you about, she
Hmm.
is she is a fair looking woman, but her experience in destitution has taken its toll on her femininity.
Hmm.
Perhaps you can remind her that she is a lady despite all her social standings.
I can do so, of course.
Thank you. It would be an honor to me.
And to me as well. I would love to meet your retainers.
um, I guess if there's nothing else you want to get out the way, would that
Mm,
be a good place to end the scene?
mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you want to give an outro?
Yeah, sure. Um, I mean, we'll look over the gardens once more, and then back to Memnon says, "Shall we go back inside and see who is speaking at the moment?" And yeah, she'll take Memnon's arm, and the two of them will walk back into the filled to the brim main hall of the Palace of Timuran. And with that, we can end our scene. Thank you, player, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. This was another scene for Odessa: The Dark Crusade Season 2. Good night.